Hey, my buddies. I decided today was going to be a Scorsese day. Because Goodfellas wasn't enough. I needed to see how we got to that point. So I watched, and that's what I'm going to talk about. I watched Mean Streets, Taxi Driver, and Goodfellas. I watched it in the opposite order, but we can do it, by when the movies were put out. But so that would mean we start with Mean Streets, which works because it's fresh on my mind. And I actually had to stop it and rewind it or start it over. Let's see, how's my work ethic today? It's not too bad, not too shabby. It's not too bad. I had to start it over because I was like, what the frick is going on? There are so many moving parts. But it's cool because, like, it wasn't because the movie was bad, it's because I'm an idiot and I have, like, really short attention span. It starts off with, let's see, Charlie, which is, let me see, there's De Niro. There's De Niro, who is John, and Charlie is Kegel or Harvey, whatever. The good Harvey. The one that was the wolf from Pulp Fiction. By the way, watching Mean Streets, Quentin Tarantino was in love with Scorsese, wasn't he? I saw a lot. Anyway, so John is the stable person that's like, he's on this is all like low end, this isn't Goodfellas levels. There's no made guys or whatever. But this is like everybody's involved, we'll say it that way. And John is the nephew of a bigger guy. So he's kind of got a reason to be cautious in his behavior. And he's a pretty stable person. But then you got his buddy Robbie De Niro over here. And he's a complete crazy case, just out there. He's borrowing money from everybody, doesn't pay anybody back, he gambles in games. Why anybody permits him to join in games? But that's the thing about him, he talks so fast, he's so good at this, it's impossible to say no to this guy. And it's just like, I don't know, I got those two mixed up. John is the crazy one, Charlie's the good one. Charlie, I'll remember that. Anyway, so the entire movie opens up from a dream, and you don't know who Charlie's talking to, but it's Charlie's voice, and he's explaining his thoughts to somebody. And his thoughts are essentially like, you can't go to church and fix these things that you did, the things that you did wrong. You can't just go to a church and penitence your way through it. He's like, you gotta go home and fix it. You go to the streets and fix it. You gotta do something good, something real. Because he's really just, he's got this thing about this saint that he's following after, trying to like memorialize in his life. And Saint Asinine, that's a mean way to say it's not his name. Assisi. Saint Francis Assisi. I think that's what it was. But he keeps failing at it because every time he tries to do anything, he's like, keeps getting dragged. He's very conflicted. And that's expressed, okay, the soundtrack in this movie, freaking wild. So apparently Scorsese used his own albums from his personal record collection to power through this. And he ended up paying $300,000 plus to get the soundtrack, because it's really popular songs. But the problem is, like, he didn't have the budget for it. So he was kind of a little bit like John, where he didn't have, like, he didn't know if he was going to be able to have to rob Paul to pay Saul. But it was interesting. So, like, okay, so there's two types of genres of music. There's American rock and roll, or like American pop, and then there's Italian operatic, just stuff in Italian. I don't know my Italian genres. Let me get a Coca-Cola. I'll be right back. Okay, what was I talking about? The music? Yeah, there's this church-like operatic music, and then the third type of music that I actually just forgot about was the music that's as we're getting closer and closer to the festival, which is the climatic, what everybody's building up towards. They're all trying to prepare for it. It's the feast of the yada yada blah, something Catholic, something big. Um, you get more of the marching band kind of like really pervasive, stressful horns, just charging in your ear. It adds to the stress and the chaos of the situation. Okay, so he's gotten to the penitent part, and then let's see, he has to, oh yeah, so it's the introduction scene. They introduce Robert De Niro with Jumping Jack Flash, and that was right. That was like it was such a, you don't realize how not stressful, how like almost demonic, no, what's the word, evil, angry, like overbearingly just aggressive this song sounds like. The guitar in the song, it's the only part of everything else in the song is happy, but the guitar, the electric guitar in the song. So when he comes in, you hear that, wow, I was born. And the way the song goes, as the guy's talking about, I was born in a hurricane, I was born in, everything. And he says all these random, crazy, chaotic things. And he says, but it's all right now. It's all right. Like, everything's fine. Everything's fine, guys. It's fine. It's totally fine. And that's perfect for John's character, because he's a whirlwind of a human being, and he is constantly creating problems that he doesn't stick around to face. And he's he's gaslighting everybody all the time. He's like, nah, come on, whatever, it's fine, what's the big deal, come on, you can embarrass me in front of my friends, stuff like that. So this guy Michael, which, by the way, there's something about the facial structure of men like Michael, whoever the actor is that plays Michael. I had the biggest thing for Yul Brynner growing up. When I was 5 years old, I didn't know what my little heart was telling me, but I was going to marry him. I was in love with him from The King and I. That was the only thing I ever watched of his. Turns out he's kind of a major D-bag, but whatever. There's something about Michael. He's got a similar face. The eyes, I don't know. But Michael has been lending Johnny money, and he's getting to the point where he's getting pretty pissed about it, which is like, come on, dumbass, like, why are you still lending him money? But he's trying to get the money off of Johnny. And Johnny enters this room after Michael has already talked to Charlie on his, Charlie's kind of like trying to like smooth it out. And he's like, I can't take it anymore. Like, this is getting ridiculous. And Charlie's like, I'll talk to him. I'll figure it out. And he's like, I just saw him buying himself some clothes, and he owes me money. What the heck? Johnny comes in, goofing off with two girls that he met somewhere. And he tries to order a drink, and Charlie's like, it's a really cute scene. Charlie's like, I need to talk to you in the back. And then Johnny's like, what, you gonna pull me away and embarrass me and yada yada blah? And then Charlie's like, I'm requesting presents in the back or whatever. And then Johnny's like, oh, you requesting? Okay, after you. And then he's like, no, after you. No, I insist. No, I insist. He's like, get in the back. It's just funny. Anyway, and this is where you get to see like the way he spins himself away from problems. So Charlie's like, come on, man, what happened? How much money do you have? And he's like, I got like $20. He's like, but take that 20. You may get 3 or something, just enough for a couple drinks, whatever. And what happened? Like, how do you not have any money? And he tells this really like chaotic story, which when I read the screenplay, because I had to read the screenplay to figure out what's going on, because I'm working and watching this at the same time. The screenplay has a completely different thing, and it's not him telling the story, it's a flashback, but it's fine. So his story is, he was sitting at a table gambling, playing cards, and he was winning, and then this kid comes in screaming about the cops, and then it's a false alarm. Then when he sits down, he loses all his money, but he can't get paid for the money that he earned or whatever, and he's like, I gotta get that money back. And Charlie's like, okay, we'll figure it out. So he goes in and he buys Mike a drink on his tab, and it's just, he puts, and the bartender's also like, what, the big tab or the little tab? He's like, the little tab, make it equal to the big tab, It's stupid. Anyway, it's where let me stop. They introduced Giovanni, which is the uncle of Charlie. And Giovanni's like very much Godfather-esque. And he's like, don't worry about, because Charlie's job is to like collect money for him, and he wasn't able to collect on a restaurant because one of the partners of the restaurant's been missing. And the guy's like, I'm just gonna have to give him the restaurant. And his uncle's like, just be patient. We don't need to press him right now. We'll figure this out. Just be patient. Just chill, Charlie. Charlie's like, also, I was at the bar with the shooting last night. And he was like, no, you weren't. And he's like, you're right. I must have forgot. I wasn't there. And then there's this really strange scene where they come into the back room of the bar. And by the way, the bar is all red light. It's a very immersiveness into hell. It's pretty obvious. Also, this really weird thing that he does. Charlie plays with fire throughout the movie, and as the movie progresses, his play with fire progresses as well in intensity. So initially, there is a scene where he's holding his fingertip to a match that's lit, and he's kind of showing his friends as he's like kind of like being like, look at this trick a priest taught me. And then later on in the movie, he's at church after some crazy shit goes down, and he's holding his hands to the candles that they use for prayer in the church. And then later on in the movie, after like things start to come to a head and his uncle tells him basically, you can't see Teresa and you can't hang out with Johnny, an honorable man, yada yada, he goes into the kitchen of the restaurant that he's supposed to inspect because he's supposed to run it. And there's an open flame, and he puts his hand to the flame and he just kind of holds it there, like he just submerges it. And other people read this as he's playing with fire. That's his relationship with Johnny and Teresa. But I read it I think it's more of something along the lines of him trying to acclimate himself to the fires of hell. Like getting used to the flames. And I feel like when he put his hand in the flame, he was ready to go the full damnation. I don't know. That's what I took out of it. Anyway, sorry. That Charlie's being torn between trying to leave behind the chaos of his bad friend group and become a productive member of the little mafiosi stuff, and being, like there's this duality in his life, and he doesn't know which to do because his instinct is to save his friend, and he feels like that's what the saint whatever would have done, but he also can't betray or let down his family. So it's all dark city streets, and even when it's sunny out, it's like gray, or it's this red room. That's the bar that they always hang out in, and this bar is like a never-ending party. It feels very much like a hell. But they come into the back of this room where they like store the beer or whatever, and this guy's working there, but he's making out with this girl, and he's talking. He's like, come on, relax, sweetie, relax. And then for no reason, I don't understand the point of this, but when they come in, the reason for them to come in is this guy's like, I gotta show you this. And he opens up, he takes the curtain off of these cages, and these cages have lions in them, or panthers or something. And everybody jumps back, and they're all like, whoa, no. And he's like, no, come on, it's fine, it's totally normal. Look at him. I don't have permits for him, so keep quiet about it, and don't tell anybody, and don't touch them. I'm the only person that can touch them. I'm the only person that can feed them, whatever. Never comes back in the movie, completely like, but the caged animal metaphor, and also the way the guy talks to them is the same exact way that the guy earlier was making out with the girl, because he's like petting them and kissing them, and he's like, come on, sweetie, you love your daddy, and da 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 da. It's really fucking weird. So, okay. Then there's another scene of them all like just hanging out in the bar, and there's this really, really drunk guy that climbs onto the counter to pass out. And while they're all hanging out, this young kid comes in with his hair tucked into his collar of his jacket. And he's like, they're like, the bar is closed. He's like, I'm just here waiting for so-and-so. And they're like, all right, fine, take a seat. And then at one point, the drunk gets up to you to use the bathroom. All the while, Charlie has been doing this rendition of, I don't know. It's like church prayers. It's like Jesus is quoting, who said I'm a Jew? And the guy said, what is truth? And, thou art, yada, yada, blah. And he's doing this, like, very Catholic stuff. And everybody else is joining in because they're all Catholic boys. And he's trying to get people to play cards with him and trying to get people to be nice and relax. And he keeps trying to remind people we're friends, we're all friends, everybody's friends. And while this is going on, the kid follows the drunk to the bathroom, shoots him 3 times in the back. And the drunk, being super drunk, turns around and assaults the kid, like chases the kid down, tries to kill the kid. Everybody freaks out, cuts the lights, dips out, they run away. And they get in a cab with these 2 gay guys that are really, really, really outlandishly gay and yelling and stuff and being just like the most obscene that they could be and vulgar and whatever. It's got nothing to do with anything. It's just Scorsese is portraying the way that Italians see black people and gay people and Jewish people. And then there's this other scene, I can't remember if it happened before this or after this, but they go to collect the money for Johnny from the guy, and I love this guy. This guy, the Italian, like, hey. Well, they go there to collect it at his pool hall, and they end up getting in a fight because he calls Johnny a mook, because Johnny's just sitting there talking mad shit. He's not even, like, helping to progress anything. Everybody's there for him, but he can't get his own ego out of the way, and he starts talking mad shit. And the guy's like, you a mook, I'm not gonna give you no money. He's like, what's the mook? What is a mook? And he's like, yeah. They get into a big old fight. Cop comes, the guy pays the cop off, and then they're like, okay, let's get a drink, let's settle this. He gives them this money, and they're like, let's drink, let's get that drink that we were talking about. And then he goes to shake Johnny's hand to, like, bury the hatchet, and Johnny's like, don't fucking touch me. And he's like, hey, and then he just whack, punches Johnny in the face. It's the funniest scene because the I don't know what it is about it. It came so naturally to him, but it feels so funny for somebody who's never said that, heard that, or whatever. It just cracked me up. Let's see, what else happened? Okay, so after they get out of the car with the gay guys, they end up going to Charlie's place because his mom's over there taking care of his grandmother. And this is like a time where Johnny's like, do you even like your grandma? It's like Johnny's kind of like pushing Charlie because he's kind of like, what is the point of loving people? Kind of like, that's the way it seems to come off. And then they sleep in the same bed together in their underwear and tank tops, like a masculine embrace, but not an embrace. It's an intimacy you don't expect. And it's really funny that this happened directly after the gay guy scene, where they're like so angry about gay people, but then they do this like this thing together. They're just so intimate, like brothers, and they don't see it as anything weird or extra or nothing. And then Johnny dips out, and Charlie looks out his window and watches Teresa, who's Johnny's cousin, and she's like getting stark ass naked in the window. And he goes over there, and it's like the Scorsese likes to do this in this movie where there's a lot of talking over the scenes. So it's Charlie's stream of consciousness just continuously talking, and this time he's talking to Teresa and telling her about this dream he had where he orgasmed blood all over her and all of this. I don't know. Teresa has epileptic fits, and the family looks down on her for it. They kind of shun her, and also she's related to Johnny, which doesn't help because Johnny's, they're all clumped up together as the uncle says, head case. They're all a head case. They're all half crazy. And he's like, Charlie, you got to distance yourself from these people. An honorable man only stays with honorable men. And then he's like, keep an eye on that girl, but don't get involved. Like, kind of like, I know you're involved, but whatever. So he goes to tell Teresa at some point, like, hey, we can't hang out anymore. Sorry, Schnooks. She doesn't like it, but she gets him to kind of sort of he doesn't not admit that he loves her. He kind of says, yeah, I kind of love you, but he doesn't say the words. Then they find out what's up with the restaurant, that the guy, the partner, had shot himself in the face. And that doesn't go anywhere. That plot doesn't go anywhere. It's just, I don't know, something. And then, but Charlie's supposedly going to inherit a restaurant, maybe that restaurant. maybe that's what's going on, because he's planning this, and he's like, okay, so if Teresa can back the hell down and let me get myself established in this restaurant business, maybe then I can bring her in as somebody that I'm seen with, because I'll be so successful, people won't question me as much. And while he's getting all these dreams, he's very much like spending money before you get it kind of guy. He's going up to there's a black dancer at the bar, the Hell Bar, I'm going to call it. And he even in his mind, like with the overlapping narrator conversation, they're saying like, she's a beautiful girl. You can't take that away from her. She's very, very beautiful, but she's also black. And, you know, that's also something you can't take away from her. And, you know, but they're all the same. Everybody's all the same. It's not that different, is it? That's the end of that. But he goes up to her and he's like, hey, by the way, I think you're really talented. I would like to consider hiring you as a hostess in my restaurant I'm opening up. Would you like to meet with me after work? And she's like, sure. She's like, Chinese food? He's like, yeah. And then he has the cab driver slowly drive by her where she's waiting for him after, so that he's like gonna go and meet with her, do this good deed, but he chickens out because he's like, I can't be seen with a black person. That's the last thing my reputation needs. So it kind of, I don't know. And then, let's see, I don't know. There's this scene where Michael cheats some kids out of some firecracker money. They go to buy firecrackers from him. He drops them off in a neighborhood they don't know, takes their money and leaves. Michael and some other, I think it was Michael, they were all talking about this girl, and somebody showing these other two a picture of her, and they're like, you know, hey, she's really pretty, whatever, what do you think about her, and blah, 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 blah. And then this other guy walks up, he's like, I know that girl, I saw her kissing an N-word under the bridge the other day. And they're like, what? And he's like, nah, you're lying, you're full of it, that didn't happen. And he's like, yeah, I 100% saw that. And he's like, damn, I've been kissing her. Anyway, then Johnny's on the rooftop. They're all partying again. Everybody's hanging out, having a good old time. And there's this scene where Charlie they got the camera on his face while he's walking through this party with this really kooky song, American song, of course. And it's just chaos. And he passes out drunk and wakes up, and there's this veteran that's got PTSD, and he's fighting. They stop the fight, and he's trying to attack this girl. And then Teresa comes to that bar and says, hey, Johnny's on top of the roof with a gun shooting at stuff. So he goes and gets Johnny, and he's like, you know, what the hell are you doing, man? You know, stop it. And then Johnny sets a firecracker off, and they all run. Then it finally comes to a head. He meets with Michael, and he's like, Michael, how much does Johnny actually owe you? Because Johnny started asking him, hey, just go to your uncle for me. Ask your uncle for help. That's the only way I can see to get out of this. And he's like, I'm not going to my uncle for you. So that, you know, Johnny's like disappears for a while, and he's talking to Michael. Charlie's talking to Michael, and Michael's like, he owes me $3,000, which is a huge amount of money back then. This is the 70s. And he's like, why did you let it, don't you think you should have come to me before it got to that point? And he's like, no, this is business. He's like, this is stupid business. You're an idiot. Why would you do that to yourself, to me, to Johnny, what are you thinking about? And he's like, listen, let's get it down to at least $1,800. And he's like, $2,000. And he's like, bet. All right, I'll figure out a way to get this situated. And he's like, I'll have Johnny come and meet you tomorrow at such and such a time. And then he and Teresa meet up, and he's like, you know, I got Johnny, everything's fine. And she's like having like emotional feelings about, she's trying to get her own place so she and him can get together. And he's trying to be like, bitch, chill. And while this is happening, he's like caressing her face, and Johnny pops up in a window looking at them. And he's like, he's going to feel some kind of way, but he's a jokester. He doesn't let anything touch him. He doesn't want to let anything touch him. So he comes in the room, and he's like, oh, when's the marriage? Yada, yada. And then he's making jokes about like, hey, when she comes, does she have an epileptic fit? And then Charlie starts slapping him. She has an epileptic fit in response to being kind of shoved around in the melee. Some old lady comes over, and then I don't care. Anyway, it all ends in a climatic event of Johnny can't keep his freaking mouth shut. he meets Michael an hour late, and while doing so, he's disrespectful. And so he pulls a gun out and it aims it at Michael because Michael was going to beat his ass, fairly so. And he's like, nah, I'm going to shoot you in the face. And then everybody calms everything down. Michael dips out and Charlie's like, we got to go. So he gets Johnny in the car. He calls Teresa to tell her. And Teresa's like, I'm coming with you. And he's like, we're just going to be out for a while until I could talk to some people and calm this whole thing down. And she's like, I'm coming with you. And then they're on the road driving chaotically. Johnny's being goofy. Everybody's being loud. And they start getting shot at. And Charlie gets shot in the neck or the arm. Johnny gets... almost nothing happens to him. And Teresa, you can't tell what happened to her, but there's a hole in the windshield. And you're pretty sure that she busted herself up. Which her head can't take much more damage. So, that's great. The car crashes into a fire hydrant, and Johnny gets out and starts walking away and stumbling around and like trying to find his way home. And he walks into what seems to be like a light. And then Charlie and Teresa are met with an ambulance, and that's kind of where the scene ends. And the end of the movie, this is all while the horns are starting to play, and you see cuts to the parade and people marching and shouting and screaming and having a good time, but it feels like pain. It feels like war. It sounds like war. And it seems like everybody's just kind of washing their hands of, it's just the chaos continues. There's no end to this. There's no resolution to it. You don't get to know who lives and dies. And that's kind of the point. It doesn't really matter. When one Charlie dies, another is erected. When one Johnny dies, another is erected. Like, that's the way that the lower levels of the mafia organized, or the disorganized section of the organized crime, conducts itself. That's where everything goes. So yeah, it's that was really fun. That was a great... It was written and directed by Scorsese. I know that. That one, Goodfellas, and Taxi were all directed by him, but Taxi wasn't written by him. The other two were written by him, or written by him with someone else. Anyway, it's all a mess. So I feel like the main themes in that, it seems to me there's, well, first of all, the women, there's the forbidden love, there's the machismo aspect of everything, where the men are like not the nicest of people to these girls. There's the trapped animals in the cage, and there's this pervasive Catholic guilt that overlays everything, where he's trying to be a better man, but and that's a phrase that Teresa says to him. She's like, Saint Francis Assisi or whatever, he didn't run numbers, he didn't collect for his uncle, he didn't do any of this. You're trying to be a saint, but you're still benefiting off of the backs of sin. So what are you even talking about? Like, where's any of this going? And I think that's kind of why it ended the way it ended. It was like, it's not supposed to feel like a redemption arc. Like, there is no redemption. You're participating in this. You're never going to get out of it. It's like the bar, where it's a never-ending party. And sometimes it's good, and sometimes it's horrifying. And also, it just kind of, the way the film was, like, there was a lot of cameras held at eye level running up to people, so you got the camera shakes. Like, there's not, like, smooth camera work so much. And I heard that that's, like, a lot of that was just a low budget, but it adds to the documentary kind of feel of the movie. Like, it's like you're not watching a story with a plot, you're just watching daily life of these people. So I don't know. The same with Taxi Driver, actually. Taxi Driver is quite a different movie. Taxi Driver opens up with the dark New York taxi scene and the cab coming out of the smoke. And it's got this music that is so overwhelming. Like, it was giving me a headache. honestly. And the angles of the camera are kind of skewed, but not, they're like slightly off kilter, just enough to make you feel uneasy. And then they're very close to people's faces this whole movie, where it feels really cramped. It feels like you're like kind of stuffed in a box with somebody. The first introduction to Robert De Niro's character, Travis, is him trying to get a job as a cabbie. And he's talking to this guy, interviewing him, and the guy asks him a series of questions like, did you ever serve in the military? And he's like, yes, Marine honorable discharge. And it's like, okay, this was done in like the early 70s, 73, 79. I can't remember, but it's like, what war he was in. If he's saying like, yeah, I was active duty, whatever, it's like, oh, you got some PTSD stuff going on. And he's like, why do you want to work here? And he's like, I can't sleep. Like, he doesn't need this job. He just can't sleep. He needs something to do. And he's like, I want to work long hours. I want to work nights. And the guy's like, okay, where are you willing to? He's like, anytime, any place. And he says it several times until the guy's like, are you screwing with me? Are you being rude with me? What are you? I don't like people that are rude to me. And he's like, no, I'm just saying, I'm sorry. And that's something that happens a lot. He says things that don't sound wrong, but are perceived wrong by the people around him. And it really does. It happens quite a few times where he'll just say something that sounds completely innocent and innocuous until you see the outside elements that cause it to be inappropriate and why he is turned away by society. So then it's him in the movie theater, and he's sitting there, and it's a dirty movie theater, like pornography. And he's just watching, like he's watching something that's barely interesting. He's watching like he's studying human behavior. I don't really understand it. He's watching as though sex is something he wants to want, but he has no actual interest or investment in it. He just knows it's something he's supposed to want, so he's trying to figure out what it is. And then he's writing in his diary, and that's another one of those overlapping audios where it's just him explaining his thoughts. And it reads like a manifesto. And he talks about this girl Betsy, which is Sybil Shepherd. Great actress, I love her. And while he's talking about how dirty and filthy the streets are, he talks about the rain washing away the stink, washing away the filth, washing it all away, hoping that it'll all just go away. And he then transitions to talking about her and how she's wearing white and she's clean and none of these creatures should be allowed to touch her. And it's just very interesting. It's like, okay, so you hate people. You really hate people. And you have a disdain and disgust with this city, so you choose a job where your job is to be out at night, watch it in the dirtiest, worst parts of the city with the most chaos, the most just surrounded by wretches. It's more than just cacospectomania. It's more than just what we have when we see roadkill and we look at it. It's more of like it's like if it were that parable, it'd be like, or that metaphor, it'd be him pulling over his car to stop and stare at the roadkill. Like, that's what he has done with his life. He has made himself stop. And later, he writes a letter to his family, and it's like, oh, so you had other options. You could be anywhere else. And he's got a Midwestern accent, so he's clearly not from New York. So it's like, what are you even doing here, guy? Like, what is the purpose of this for you? What is the benefit of this for you? It's like he decided, I'm feeling dark and dirty, so I'm going to completely embrace that and drop anchor in this dark, desperate place. Anyway, so he starts stalking Betsy, and it cuts to the inside of like where Betsy's working, and she's working for a presidential candidate, Palatine or whatever. And she's got some quirky interactions with her coworker that's this, just a goofy guy, kind of a sweet guy. And she's like, they just quit back and forth like a married couple, and it's kind of cute, and it's obvious that he has a thing for her, and she's kind of maybe open to it. And then she's like, do you see that cab driver? He's been watching. I feel like he's been there too long. He's been watching us. So the guy she's talking to goes outside to confront him and be like, hey, do you mind? And he spiels off, just takes off. He's like, nope, not going to talk to people. And then there's a scene when he's like at a diner with his coworkers. They're all grabbing a bite to eat, and he's got like a very antisocial thing around him where he doesn't contribute to the conversation, doesn't participate in anything. He drops seltzer in his water and he just stares at the bubbles until somebody engages him. And then when they engage him, he just kind of mumbles something and then goes back to what he's doing. And it's like he's not there. And anyway, so he goes up and he confronts Betsy, and he's like, I want to take you out. Come out for coffee with me. He won't take no for an answer. He's like, when's your break? Let me buy you a coffee, And she agrees, and they go around the corner. She meets him at like 4:00, and he's outside waiting for her. And they go to grab a coffee and pie, and he describes, I ordered apple pie with a melted yellow cheese slice. Like, it's the food that he eats in this movie is very depression food. And it's like for me, it's part of the expression of him being depressed and accepting and wallowing in it to the point where he doesn't know what's normal anymore. So when he's writing about ordering this food, he's like, I feel like that was a pretty normal thing to do. So it's almost like when he's going out, he's buying snacks he's flirting with the lady at the theater who, in the beginning, it just seems like a cute interaction until you realize it's a dirty movie theater. She doesn't need to talk to you, doesn't want to talk to you, and also it's kind of weird to buy snacks for a porn movie. Everything he's doing on paper seems normal, but when you see it in context, it's creepy AF. So it's the same thing with the pie. And then he's talking to her, and he's kind of talking at her, and he's saying things about her coworker, and he's just kind of like talking crap about the guy, and just like, I don't like him, I think he's weak, and I think you're lonely like me, I think you're broken like me, stuff like that. And she's like, I've never met anyone like you, which is like, yeah, bitch, run. He convinces her to go out on a date with him, and she references a song that I wanted to look up, that she says the lyrics are like him, and one of the lyrics is talking about how he's a contradiction. And so he goes out and buys the record album, and gives it to her as a gift for their first date. Again, very sweet, very, this is our inside joke. Look, we got one. And she's grateful for it. And then he takes her to a movie, and she's like, I don't really want to do this. And he's like, come on, I see couples doing this all the time. They always come in here. She's like, okay. And then they go in, and it's a dirty movie. The whole time you're sitting there like, no, don't let it be that. And halfway through not 15 seconds in, she walks out. And she just berates him. And she's like, get away from me. I need to get a cab, which is like really offensive to him. He's like, I can drive you. And she's like, I want nothing to do with you. It would be no less romantic for you to just look at me and say, I want to fuck you, than it was for you to take me to this theater. And he's sitting there like, kind of gaslighting her, saying like, well, if I thought that you felt that way about it, I wouldn't have taken you there, and I didn't know, and da-da-da-da-da. And now he's driving around at night, trying to figure out what happened, like where he went wrong with her. And he picks up a guy who's Scorsese, young Scorsese, where more than just his eyebrows were black. He had black hair. It was so cute. And the guy's like, hey, pull up here. Just leave the meter on. Don't turn it off. And it's this whole thing. He's like, turn it on. Turn the meter on. I'm not getting it. I'll pay you. Just turn the meter back on. We're just going to sit here. And it seems to be really difficult to get him to do anything. But then he's like, you see that window up there? That one on the right? That one? No, that one? No, that one. It's really annoying. Like, I would have wanted to smack him. And he's like, that's my wife. You see that silhouette? And it's a woman in the window undressing. behind a curtain, but you can see your silhouette. And he's like, that's my wife. And he's like, she's up there banging a N-word. And, I've got a 44 Magnum and I'm going to kill her. And, Travis is just kind of sitting there just not reacting to this. And he's like, do you know what? I'm going to shoot her right in the face. It'll destroy her face. It'll completely ruin that beautiful face she has. Do you have any idea what it would do to her pussy? Like, and then he just keeps on going in detail with this. And Travis doesn't even respond. And then that's the end of that. There's nothing happens. Like, it doesn't resolve itself or anything. And then there's another time that he pulls up in the Harlem area, I think. And it's where it's like kind of, it's where the street workers or the sex workers are walking around and their pimps are telling them what to do. And this young girl, this young white girl, gets into the cab and her pimp is yelling at her and she's like, drive, go. And again, Travis is not taking direction. He's just sitting there looking at her. She's like, go. And then her pimp gets to her and he yanks her out of the car and he throws a $20 bill at him. He's like, hey, cab, you just forget this ever happened. And he doesn't respond, just takes the money. And then there's another scene. These are all scenes where it feels like it's just in his head. It feels crazy. It feels like, unreliable narrator type of thing. He's been scoping out Palentine's, because that's the guy that Betsy's working for. That's the presidential candidate she's trying to get in office. So he's scoping out his rallies, and he goes up to Secret Service, and it's really weird how the camera is so high up looking down at him. And this is almost every scene with him in it, you're looking down at him. And it's looking over the shoulder of a Secret Service person down at De Niro. Well, De Niro kind of smiles up at him impishly, and he's like, hey, I know you're Secret Service, right? Like, hey, what kind of gun do you have? All the questions you don't ask. And he's like, what does it take to be a secret? I was in the Marines and da-da-da-da. And the guy's like, oh, tell you what, give me your personal information. Give me your address, and we'll send you all the information you need to sign up. And then he gives him a fake, because he catches on, he gives him a fake address. And then he dips out. And he ends up being the cab that picks up Palentine one night. And Palentine's trying to be one of the people. And that's one of his slogans is, we are the people. Which is clearly, not the right thing for Travis, because Travis hates people. But he's in the cab with Travis, and then he's asking, Travis is like, hey, man, I really love you. I love what you're doing. You're going to win. I'm going to vote for you. I tell all my friends. He has no friends. He hasn't told anyone. And then the guy's like, thank you. I feel like I've learned a lot more about the American spirit from cabs that I've caught than from anything else I've ever done. And, he's just kind of patronizing him. And then De Niro's like, Palentine asks him, what would you do? What would you have me do? What is your ambition for me running? And he's like, I don't really pay attention to politics. He's like, thanks for your vote. And then he's like, no, seriously. And then he's like, I'd clean up the streets. I get headaches from the stench, the people, the noise, the filth, and he's described these people. First part of him driving as a cab driver, he talks about how people are animals. It's all the gays and the black people and the scum of the earth and all these screaming filthy hordes. And so he kind of goes off on a rant about the garbage, clean up the trash of the city. And Palentine just kind of responds with, PC, whatever he's supposed to say. Well, it's going to be hard. We're going to have to put in a lot of work. Yada, yada, blah, elbow grease. That's the end of that. And then another time he's in his cab, he almost hits the girl that tried to get in his car. And her name's Iris. He almost runs into her. And he kind of follows her a little bit. And it's weird because she seems to recognize him. Or she just seems to realize he's watching and staring at her. And she immediately walks up to a random guy and says, hey, you want to walk together? The guy's like, sure. And then that's her way of protecting herself from whatever the cab driver's going to do. But now he knows that's her local spot. He's going to go back to the same place that he almost picked her up from the first time. So he's like, okay. And then as he's driving away, there's this camera kind of pans in on this black guy that's walking by him screaming, I'm gonna kill that bitch, I'm gonna kill her once I get my hands on that woman. And he's just talking to himself, just sweating and crazy. Okay, this is another thing I forgot. The second time you see him sitting in the movie theater is to towards the middle end of the movie. And instead of just sitting relaxed, kind of looking at the screen perplexed like he did in the beginning, he sits there and kind of plays peekaboo with the screen. He moves his fingers back and forth over his eyes, and then he points his finger almost like a gun or an accusatory thing, where he just points it at the characters on the screen, and it's like he settles. And I took that to mean that he has decided that he's not the problem. It's that they're the problem, that sex is the problem, that other people are the problem, and that he's finalized the rationale in his mind to do what he wants to do. Okay, thanks, bye. And then there's a scene where De Niro he's eating worse and worse, and he's talking about how he wants to get better. He wants to do better. And he just bought a bunch of guns from one of the cab drivers telling him, like, you should get a gun just to be safe while you're driving in this city. And he's like, nah, I'm good. I don't really need it. And they're like, no, you really should get a gun. And then he does. It's like something clicks in him. And it's right after this scene with a fire hydrant shooting off. And that's my thing with water is always supposed to... I always read water scenes as scenes of a redefinition of her character, like a baptism almost. Because it's like right around this time, the water hydrant is just kids playing on the water hydrant. And he's like, I have a purpose now. Everything changed. Like he was just humdrum going through his everyday life, just doing nothing with nothing. And then he gets this click in his head, and I'm going to get a gun. And I need to start training my body. I need to do push-ups and sit-ups and pull-ups and all of that. I need to control what I eat. I need to stop doing drugs because he's popping pills and stuff. I need to stop drinking. My body is my temple. I need to do right by it. I'm going to make sure that, I am a finely tuned machine. But he doesn't do that. It shows one scene of him working out. The rest of it's him in the firing range, like practicing his aim. And he's still doing drinking and drugs, and he's still eating like crap. He's got one meal where he's pouring liquor into a torn up white bread bowl, like a bowl full of bread pieces and sugar. He's pouring peach Baileys in it with milk or something. It's really bad. It's so gross. And that's that depression food, like the stuff you can eat. Trust me, I was eating dry top ramen just to sustain myself, because I'm like, I gotta eat because I can't get over the hunger. But I also don't care enough about myself, so screw it. So what's going on? He goes and finds the sex worker Iris, and he walks up to her on the street, and he's like, hey, I'd like to see you. And she's like, okay, go talk to my pimp. And he goes and talks to this guy Sport, the guy that gave him the $20. And Sport's like, hey, this is how much, you can do anything to her. She's 12 years old. You've never had it like that. Save your money. You're never going to want to stop coming back. You're going to waste all your money coming to her because you can't stop. And like just talking about her so badly. And then De Niro's like, yeah, sure, I'm down. And he goes and gets her to take her to a room that she takes people to. And he goes in there and he's trying to like save the whore, just like, hook her with a heart of gold type of thing. And he's trying to say like, hey, it would be really, really cool if you didn't do this, and I'd like to save you from it. And what if, and she's trying to get him to sleep with her, and he's like, no, I don't want to do that. I want to save you. And then he's like, let's go out and get something to eat. And then he leaves her there with a date plan to meet her. And on his way out, the old guy that runs the brothel, or like whatever, collects the money for it, he gives him the same $20 bill that the pimp gave him. So it's kind of his way of like removing himself from the dirty money kind of thing. And he leaves, and then there's the scene where he's sitting having coffee with this girl, and she's like pouring tons of sugar on her food and in her coffee and stuff, and it's like, you know, it's just, I read it as like a child wanting sugar on everything, but it could have been like dope stuff, like she's on drugs and this is like one of the things that she does. Like, anyway, I've seen that habit, but I didn't associate it with her because she doesn't seem like anything like that. She seems really clean, really fresh. It's Jodie Foster, by the way, baby Jodie. And she's, as he's talking to her, he's trying to get her to admit that this isn't the life for her. And she's like, no, sport's really nice, you know, and it turns out he's her boyfriend. And then he's like, you know what he said about you? He said you're a piece of chicken or something. And it's like he said a lot about her. That's something he didn't say, and that's what you chose to anyway. And she laughs it off, and then she keeps on transitioning the conversation into something else by talking about astrology or astronomy, whatever. She's like, "You're an Aries, I can tell," and I'm like, "I'm sorry, but personally, my response to hearing anybody say anything about star signs is to immediately be like, you're no longer a human being to me, leave me alone." I would have been like, bitch, die in the streets. I don't care anymore. But that's just me. I'm toxic that way. I can't stand it when people do this. And then at one point she talks about scorpions. She's like, I could tell you're a scorpion. And it's like she meant to say Scorpio. But because she's not versed in the things she's talking about, she's just trying to sound authoritative and able. That's what she ends up saying to him. She's like, you're a scorpion. And she's talking about going to a commune, maybe, like, you know, instead of doing this, I could go and join a commune. And she's like, you could come with me. And he's like, I hate people. I'm not going to a freaking commune. And it kind of ends there with her just dismissing him and him saying, look, I got too much money in my life. I can give you all of it if you'll go home. And she's like, nah, I'm choosing my life for myself. And this kind of sets him over the edge. He's over everything now. He's pissed off. He's ready to enact his deciding. He's ready to activate the next phase of his transition into madness. So he goes to the rally. Okay, so he goes to this rally, and the camera's on all these people, just people wandering in and out, and everybody's excited for Palatine's rally. And it cuts over to his torso, and then it zooms up, and you see that he's got a mohawk. He's cut his hair into a mohawk. And this is after the famous, you know, who you talking to? You think you're talking to me? It's after all of that. Like he's fashioned a gun holder for his boot, and a thing that shoots the gun to his hand from his sleeve, and he's got a gun in his side pocket. He's got himself as ready as possible. He's been practicing his quick draw. He's got his ammo. He's ready to do this. He's been planning this. He's there now. And the mohawk thing, apparently this is something Marines in Vietnam used to do when they were right about to go and do a suicide mission, is they would give themselves mohawks. So he's like ready to die. And he goes to approach to do what he's been planning all this time. And the Secret Service, probably the same guy, sees him and sees him reaching, and he starts yelling and he runs away. And he goes back home. And he's like drinking a bunch of milk or something, or alcohol, whatever, and he's popping all these pills, and he's just like, all right, so let's go for round 2. So he couldn't kill the one associated with Betsy. He couldn't kill the male authority figure that was keeping Betsy from him. That's what he considered, that's what he felt. He felt like Betsy was so far removed from him because she had a purpose, she had a cause, she cared about people. This was the guy that she considered her hero, so he was going to kill her hero. And now he's going to do that to Iris, and he's Iris's pimp, which she's in a relationship with. And it cuts to the scene of Iris kind of complaining to her pimp about how she's not happy, and then her pimp dancing with her and being sweet to her and saying all the things that anyone would assume someone would say to convince a girl to like give up on her ambitions and be with you. And again, this is just like the president candidate getting in his cab. It's like, did this happen? Is this in his head? It seems too perfect not to be true, or too perfect to be true, too fake. He goes up with his new mohawk, his new haircut, and he's like, hey, so, hey, Sport. The guy's name's Sport. And he's like, do I know you? I don't know you. He's like, yeah. And then he shoots him in the gut. The guy makes a hilarious sound. He's like, oh. I didn't want to laugh. I did want to laugh. I needed to laugh. That movie was stressful. So he shoots Sport, and he goes inside. He shoots the John that she's with. He shoots the old man. The old man gets up, shoots him, and then he gets in the room. And this is when he shoots the guy that she was, her John, and she's like, don't kill him, don't kill, and he shoots him anyway, and she's like, ah! And then he's like, he's kneeling before her while she's curled up in horror at the carnage of everything, and he puts the gun to his jaw, and he goes to pull the trigger. Girl, you little ass car, can you please get over yourself? Jeez. This road's not big enough for the two of us. Lift Titan. I'ma go. Your car's worth more than mine, but I'm more of an asshole than you are. Anyway, he goes to shoot himself, but the gun's empty, and he clicks it several times, and it's just another failure. He wanted to go out in a blaze of glory, and so he fails this. So he sits on the couch while she's sobbing, and the police come up and point a gun at him, and he goes like this, or whatever. And he does it 3 times, like he's ready to get shot. And it's like, if you really wanted to die, you could have charged the cops. They would have killed you gladly. But then it cuts to however long later, while he's recovering from he was put in a medical induced coma or something from the wounds that he got from what he did. And there's a letter that is being read in the voice of the father of Iris, thanking him and saying, like, you're always welcome in our home as a guest, and you're a hero in our household, and we really are grateful for you to return her to us, and it's been a difficult transition, but she's working very hard, and we're incredibly proud of her, and we're so grateful to you, and da 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 da. And then as this is being read, it's going across the wall of his hospital room, or I guess his apartment, whatever, and it's all the newspaper clippings of how he's been seen as a hero now, and the whole city is just rejoicing in him for killing the scum. And it's just really strange. And then he's meeting with his friends, and nothing has changed with him. He's acting the same, just as removed, just as confused about social interactions as ever. And everybody's really happy to see him all the time, which is new, but he hasn't changed. The environment's changed. Everybody's approving of him, but he never liked them anyway. He doesn't want their approval. He's angry. And he gets in his cab and he picks up Betsy. And it's almost like he doesn't realize she's the one that he picked up. And then she's like, hey, it's me. And he's like, yeah, I know. And she's like, says something nice to him. I don't remember. And he's like, yeah, whatever. Dismissive. And then he drops her off, and she's like, so how much do I owe you? And he's like, as he's trying to get his car in gear, like it's not a smooth exit, he's like, I'll see you later, or whatever. And he just dips out. And it's like obvious that he rejected her. She was seeing him in a new light, seeing him as a good person, seeing him as a hero, seeing him with like awe in her eyes. And he just doesn't. It doesn't even move him. And that's part of like, it's again, you feel like, okay, this is too perfect. Maybe this is fake. And then the way it ends, it's like, no, maybe this is real. And it's the same with the president thing. It's like, no, like the way that he talked to that guy, the way that the interaction went, the way the awkwardness was, it was too awkward not to have been real. It wasn't all in his head. Otherwise, it would have gone very, very differently. You would have expected a more grandiose response from the president to him, or a more grateful or graceful response. And the same with Betsy. Like, she didn't fling herself at him, nothing. I don't know. It's wild. And the same thing with Iris's parents writing to him. They were saying, like, we visited you when you were in your coma, but we don't have the funds to visit you again. It's like little things like that, little imperfections that make it seem more realistic than just a mind screw of his own. And as the scene is ending, as the movie is ending, he's looking in his rearview mirror and he kind of is like adjusting it because you can see his eyes in it. And then he just does this really quick, like he just saw something. And his face kind of contorts a little bit with this like animal rage. Or just, I don't know, like, what are you doing? What is that? That kind of look where it's like, oh, the clock has just started ticking again. He's going to do something else. He's going to kill himself. He's going to kill somebody else. And that's where the movie ends. And then that scene of him looking in his own eyes, it's... So Jodie Foster's character, Iris, said something to him in the diner. And it's the only time when she's talking to him that this camera is on her face. It's on him. So it's like, did she say that? Or did he envision her saying that? And she's saying, do you ever look in your own eyeballs in the mirror? Like, have you ever done that? Looked in your own eyes? But she says eyeballs for some reason. And it's really interesting. I'm tired of saying the word interesting, but it really is. It's really strange. It's a really odd phrase. And it's interesting that the other part of the movie where he's looking in the mirror and he's practicing the, like, confronting someone and, like, who do you think you're talking to thing. It's done from the mirror's perspective to him. And you could tell because the thing that he's got the gun on, it's on his right hand. So when he's talking to himself in the mirror, it's on his left hand. So you know you're looking as him into himself. I don't know. I thought that was interesting. He also killed a guy. Did I mention that? He's buying a bunch of junk food for whatever reason. And this black guy goes to hold up the store and try to rob the guy behind the counter. And he's giving him a hard time. He's like, come on, I know there's more. You got to have more. And he's like, he comes up behind him. He's like, hey. And the guy turns around. He shoots him in the face. And then as the guy lays dying or dead, De Niro's like, hey, I don't have a license for this gun. I don't really know what to do. And the guy's like, you can go. And then while he leaves, the store owner starts beating the dead man. Like beating him over and over and over again. Kind of like beating a dead horse or something. I don't know. It was a really graphic scene too. They did it really well. Because you could see the guy's limp body just kind of like getting thrust with the force of the blows. I don't know. There's a lot to it. It's a misanthropic movie that's very much, let's see, I don't need to go south. I need to go north. Oh shoot, I'm in the wrong lane. There's so many cars. The writer of it apparently had just gone through a horrific divorce, and he had gone through this incredible loneliness where he was just driving around a lot and feeling this way. I think it was in Los Angeles. It wasn't New York. I don't know. But he said he felt so lonely, and the loneliness became him drinking a lot and him eating really badly and all the other thoughts. And then that was like towards the end of it, he was like, I need to get a gun. I want a gun. I need to, and then out of nowhere, like he got this really bad stomach ulcer and something clicked and he was like, I gotta stop this. This is stupid. This is bad. This is wrong. This is bad for me. And he writes the screenplay in 2 drafts in like a few days. And then there weren't very many movies for people like this. It was the first incel story, really, that I know of. Besides, I don't know, Phantom of the Opera? I don't freaking know. It's such a sad story. Such an intoxicating story. There's something to be said about how we glorify killers and violence in America, and how, like, you know, the person that tried to kill the president, I can't remember if it was Ford, it was a girl, and everybody was like so fascinated with her. She was across all the headlines. There was that one chick, Patty Hearst, who she had the bank robbery thing, and she convinced everybody that she had been brainwashed because she was a rich aristocrat girl that ended up in this situation of trying to murder everyone, and she was across all the headlines. It was insane. So it's like, I don't know, I think it was a little bit of that, but it was also just like somebody, I'm not the only person that feels this way. And that's what the writer said, is he said after this, he's had so many men come up to him and say, like, you told my story, like, it's crazy that you even had, like, all the details of it were so perfect. That was me you were talking about. That was me you were having as an actor. It was crazy. So, it's interesting that Scorsese chose that movie. He had no budget. De Niro had already become a good enough actor. He had been noticed in Mean Streets, so he was cast in Godfather, and he was a high paid actor, but he never renegotiated his actor's pay for this movie that he was contracted in to have to participate in. He was in it for love of the game at this point, so that was interesting. That he like honored the agreement of $33,000 or something like that instead of the $3.3 million or whatever he got paid for. I don't know what he got paid. It's a really chaotic. It's like, what in this did Scorsese see so proudly and so honestly that he had to participate in it? I don't know. Scorsese is a complete nut job. I don't know. And then there's Goodfellas, which Mean Street was his first really big one that got him on the map. He had done a couple other things before that, you know, but Mean Street, that was the age that everybody wanted to know more about the gangsters. And then Goodfellas was like, and Mean Street was like a rewrite of another movie he had done before called something about Who's Knocking at My Door or something like that. And then there's Goodfellas, which is when he was making decent money and he was able to do what he really wanted. And that's like with Ray Liotta. Love Ray. He's so freaking gorgeous. Even as an old man. Dude, those eyes. Oh, Shoeless Joe Jackson over here. So let's see. There's Henry, which is Ray Liotta. There's James, which is De Niro, or Jimmy. There's Tommy, which is Joe Pesci. There's Karen, which is Lorraine something or other. I can't remember her last name, but she was the actress that was the therapist in The Apprentice. She's got such a specific way of talking. Almost like she has a lisp. I don't know. And the beginning of the movie is Henry orating that he didn't like lines. That was the first thing he noticed about the mobsters. They don't have to wait for anything. They get handed things. They get passed through the lines. They cut lines. They park wherever they want. Nobody hassles them. They do whatever they want. They go wherever they want. They don't have to wait. And he was in awe of that. So he went and got a job as their little valet and kind of like a gopher. Just go get this, fetch that, whatever. And this is him as like a 13-year-old driving Cadillacs around town. And he immediately gains prestige with his friends and stuff because of this. And he, this is where he meets Jimmy. I mean, not Jimmy. Well, it is where he meets Jimmy, but he also met Tommy, who's very much like Johnny, except he's successful. His father is a big deal. His grandfather's a big deal. He's 100% pure Italian, which Henry is not. And neither is Jimmy, which is De Niro's character. Neither of them are able to become made guys. They don't have the 100% lineage, but Tommy does. And at one point, his father starts beating the crap out of Henry because he's like, you know, you haven't been going to school and whatever. And Henry's just like, you know, crap, you guys, I gotta quit. Can't work for you anymore. Look what my dad did to me. And they're like, show me the guy. And they take him out to find the mailman that delivers his mail. And they take the mailman to their location and they beat the shit out of him and are like, you're not going to deliver any letters from the school to his house ever. And the mailman's like, yup, no more letters ever, ever. Till his mom actually had to complain to the post office because she wasn't getting her mail. Let's see, he introduces all the characters, and like Jimmy Two Times, I think it was Jimmy Two Times, he's like, gotta go get the papers. He says everything twice. It's a bunch of characters like that. It's a similar scene to in Mean Streets where it's a never-ending bar party. Taxi used the red lights a lot too. This movie only used it once. And it's always the descent into hell scene or scenes. But there's this, so okay, he meets Karen because Joe Pesci's like, I met myself a Jew broad. You could have come and meet with her because she's got a friend and she's not allowed out because they're racist against Italians. Imagine that, a Jew broad being racist against Italians. And he's like, fine. And he doesn't have any interest. He's got somewhere to go. He has to go make money and make moves. And so he's not being a very good date. He's just wiggling around in his seat trying to get out of there. And until Karen finally reaches over and touches his arm, is like, can you freaking stop? You're driving me nuts. And then he's supposed to meet with her again because Joe Pesci's got another date with his Jew broad. And he stands them both up. He's like, I'm not joining you. And she gets so freaking mad that she makes them drive to where he's at so she could get out and confront him. It's the best scene. It shows the camera zooming really fast, like it's the car zooming in really fast to his face. And she gets out of the car and she's like, you stood me up? Me? And she just flips the hell out. And he's like, whoa, no, let me make it up to you. I'll do anything. Hang on a second. I can't let this firecracker out of my sight. Convinces her to go, let him take her out to dinner. And then when he takes her out, he's like cutting through lines and it's a big deal. He walks through the kitchen. Like he's like, no, I like it better this way. You don't have to wait. And like he's showing her a new side of life. And it's her narration as he was so sexy. He was so hot. I never forgot how hot he was. He's always turned me on. And there's something about his power and his movements and stuff. And I knew he was a gangster and that enticed me even more. But, you know, at this point she doesn't know yet. But, okay, so there's this guy, Billy Batts, who's a made guy. Everybody else just a boys guy. Billy Batts is at the bar with Joe Pesci with Tommy and Henry and Jimmy and everybody. And he's giving Tommy a hard time. He's like, go get your shoe shining kit. And Tommy's like, you know, the fuck are you talking about? Get my shoe shining kit. I'm not getting my fucking shoe shining kit. You know, I've done a lot with myself lately, because I guess that's what he used to do as a kid. And he's like, I've done a lot with myself lately. You know, I'm having shined shoes for a long time. You know, you should get out more, look around. And then the guy's like, you know, I'm just kidding. And Tommy's really well known for having a very short fuse, very short temper. It's described in that, you know, that famous, the funny guy. I'm the funny guy. I'm here to amuse you. That's what I am. I'm a fucking clown. I'm here to amuse you. It's that scene where it's like the entire tide can shift and you don't know whether or not he's about to kill somebody. Because that's exactly what he does. He'll just like violently attack anyone around him at any given point just for the shortest perception of disrespect. So Billy Batts is sitting there kind of giving him a hard time, and everybody's like, haha, let's calm down. Okay, whoa. Let's get everything chill, because he's a made guy. He can't really do anything about it. And then the guy's like, you're right. I'm sorry. I'm done. You're good. You're a good kid. And then Joe Pesci's like, all right, let's have a fucking drink and chill. The guy's like, get your fucking shoe shining. And you just hear Joe Pesci like, motherfucker. And he throws his bottle and he flips, and everybody grabs Tommy. I'm going to keep doing that. Grabs Tommy, eats him out of there. They're like, stop it. Stop it. You can't do anything. He's a made guy. You gotta be chill. Gotta think things through. And it goes into an explanation of like, you can't kill a made guy, and if you do, you have to get permission from the guy above, from the Godfather or whatever. You have to clear it. It can't just be over something like this. That's the point. And then at the end of the party, everybody's going home, everything's done, and then it's just Billy Bats and these guys. And they go up to him and they just kill him. They just assault him, beat him until he's dead on the floor. And then I don't know where they're located, but Tommy looks at Henry and he's like, I didn't want to get blood on your floor. Such a sadistic line. It's like, that's what you're worried about? You just got everybody killed, you dipshit. So they put the body in the trunk of their car and they don't know what to do. And then Tommy's like, I'll get a shovel from my mother's house. And so they go to his mother's house so that he could get the shovel from the back of the garage. And when they're in there, his mother wakes up. And the mother is perfect. She's not an actress. That's Scorsese's mother over there. And she's just, it makes it such an organic scene. It really just feels like you're stuck at sitting at a table with all this knowledge of what's going on, stressed out of your mind. And she's just being so perfect. Just being so, when you gonna find a nice girl and settle down? And Joe's like, well, then I wouldn't be able to see you as much, and da-da-da-da-da. You stuck with me, ma. And like everybody, it's just this back and forth, this family dinner type of thing. And she won't go back to sleep. She's like, nah, I'm up. I can't sleep anyway. I'm gonna feed you. It's just wild. So while they're eating this dinner, the camera pans to the window and the trunk of their car is being kicked from the inside. Like, the guy's not dead. And then it's back to the very opening scene, which I forgot about. The opening scene, the very beginning of the movie, is them driving down the road, screaming and yelling at each other, stressing out. And then they think they got a flat tire because something bumped in their car. And they get out and they're all looking at the trunk, and the trunk is kicking. I need to stop with the accent. I can't. I've got this stupid thing in my head where I pick up accents. And I don't do them well. I just get stuck in them. Anyway. So they kill him for surezies. And they go and they bury him at a construction site that they think is going to be safe. And they kind of move on. He starts dating Karen for real. He's taking her on that date. And then, let's see. Or it was like a development site. It doesn't matter. Let's see, where are we? Spider. So there's this other scene where Tommy's flipping out again. He's at a poker game, and this guy Spider, who is in The Sopranos. You remember Tony's nephew, the one that's like snot-nosed, constantly high on stuff, helped him cut the guy's head off, and he was like, "Whoa, did you know he was going bald?" Anyway, fun. Everybody from The Sopranos is in this freaking movie. Paulie. Okay, let me stop. And Mean Streets, like, there's a theme. So, yeah, Spider goes to bring everybody their drinks, but he doesn't bring Tommy a drink. And Tommy's like, hey, what's up? I ordered a drink. And then he's like, no, I thought I heard you say this. And he's like, well, he didn't say this. I said that. He's like, yeah, but I thought, I'm sorry, I didn't mean disrespect. I really thought I heard you say, no, you said this. You didn't say, and he's like, no, I don't fucking care. Da, da, da. He's like, yeah, but that's what you said. And it's like, dude, just get the freaking drink, right? Well, Tommy gets so frustrated, he has such a short fuse, that he decides to do the cowboy thing of shooting at the floor and being silly with it. And trying to make him dance, but he shoots him in the foot. And then as the guy's screaming, Tommy's just like, whoa, making such a big freaking deal about it. Oh my gosh, it's a freaking foot. Stop being so dramatic. It's like, dude, you just shot a guy. Anyway, the next time that they're at this poker table, and everybody kind of shames Tommy, they're like, dude, like, fucking stop it. Spider's hobbling up, and Tommy's just cracking jokes. Just roasting the guy, like, go ahead, little cripple, get me a drink. And the guy's like, Tommy, go fuck yourself. And that's all he said. And Tommy's just like, and then this guy next to Tommy, dumbass. He's like, Tommy, you gonna take that from him? Come on, I thought you was tough. You gonna take that from him? And Tommy's like, bam! Shoots him several times in the back or the chest or something. Shoots him, kills him. And everybody at the table's like, dude, what the frick, man? You can't do that. What the hell are you thinking about? And Tommy's like, I don't know. He was annoying me. Just apropos of nothing. And they're like, you're going to go dig a freaking hole. He's like, yeah, I'm going to dig a freaking hole. You think I haven't dug a freaking hole before? I'll dig another one. And I'll dig another one. And he's just like annoyed. And the way the narrator, Henry, describes it, he's like, it was like a kid being made to clean up his toys. He was just like mildly annoyed with it. It was a mess. Anyway, then let's see. After that, he ends up. Henry marries. He marries. What's her name? Karen, and introduces her to all the wives of his cohorts. And she describes. She's like, these women are ugly. They have bad skin. They have bad clothing. They have bad taste. They're dramatic. They're uncultured. They're ignorant. And all of their men are setting themselves up for death. I don't like anything about this. And then she kind of hassles Henry like, can you not be a gangster anymore, or I changed my mind? There was this other scene where her neighbor across the street assaulted her, like tried to sexually assault her in the car, and Henry takes his gun and pistol whips him in front of her house and then gives her the gun like, go hide this. Are you good? And she's like, I was so turned on. All right. It doesn't take long for him to start cheating on her. He meets a girl named Janice, and he gets her an apartment, and he's over there too much, and he starts neglecting his home. And his narration versus the actual scenes, it's kind of funny. Because he says, like, there were some nights I just didn't come home, and she never asked questions. But she's asking a lot of freaking questions in these scenes. She's like, who the heck is she? Why don't you go back to that whore? That's all you're good for. And throwing fits and getting mad. And he's like, why would I want to come home if I'm going to come home to the gaslighting? And he's using the girlfriend's place as like a meetup for his friends too. So like he's over there a lot. And she's like trying to get him to love her and all of that. It's a lot. And Karen is up to here with that stuff. And she gets so mad that he wakes up to her holding a gun to his head. And she's like, cocks it while he wakes up. And she's pointing it at him, and she's like, I know you're doing this. I know you're cheating on me. I know you're lying to me. I know... Hang on a second. Is that my freaking exit? Son of a bitch. Where am I? I'm so lost. Is that my freaking... Where the heck am I supposed to go? I'll tell you. And he's like, baby, I love you. Don't do this. Don't, baby. Please just put the gun down. I love you. You know I love you. You're the only woman I want. You're all of that. And then she finally, like, she realizes in this moment, I don't want this woman to win. I want to have him, and I still have him, even if, he's a D-bag. And she's like, I can't let him win. I'm not going to kill him. I could never hurt him. I'm still attracted to him. And so she puts the gun down, and he immediately is like, fucking bitch! And he I don't remember if he slugs her, but she definitely is on the floor, and she's wailing, and she's like, I'm sorry! And he's like, I freaking hate you. And he goes and moves in full time with his girlfriend. That was enough for him. Didn't learn your lesson. Didn't think, hey, maybe you should take some time to be with your wife and figure out your family. No, he's just like, I'm out. She was mean. Freaking hilarious, honestly. And then Paulie, who's the guy that's over them, I guess Paulie's a maid guy, probably. I'm pretty sure. Paulie is their main one. He's like, goes over to the Goomba's house. That's what they call their girlfriends, their side chicks. Goes over to the Goomba's house, and he's like, all right, man, look, your wife is stirring up a lot of shit. She's making our wives upset. We all know, we all have girlfriends. Like, we all know this. This is normal. But you're slipping. You need to go home. And he's like, before you do that, I'm going to send you out to Tampa or Miami or whatever. You're going to go down there, and I'm going to have you just take a few days, go and scare a guy into paying us, and come back. That's all I need you to do. And when you come back, I'll have dealt with your wife for you. I'll talk her into normal, and I'll make sure that everything's kosher. So he does that. He goes to Miami or whatever, somewhere in Florida. And he's like, surprisingly easy. Like, he was like, it was surprisingly easy to get this guy. He just immediately coughed up the dough. He's like, that was odd. But the guy's sister was an FBI typist, so she immediately reported everything, even snitched on her brother. Everybody gets caught up. They all go to prison. They're sentenced to 10 years. But their prison is like a hotel. They're like cooking. He's just talking about how Paulie's got this amazing way of cutting garlic. And while he's there, his wife goes to meet with him because she's like, it's been hell. Nobody in the mob is supporting his wife. Like, what the frick is that about? She can't pay her bills. She can't feed her kids. You guys are just gonna like let him take the rap for some stuff that you sent him to go do, and you're not gonna protect him? You're not gonna protect his family? Like, what's the point of being in this life? I guess not waiting in lines. Well, now you wait. She goes to visit him, and she's been sneaking in stuff for him to cook and stuff. And she goes to sign in, and she sees Janice's name on the visitor list. Janice has been smuggling drugs in for him. And so is she, I guess. I don't know. Because he's been making side hustles with drugs. And she's like, I'm freaking sick of this. And she starts throwing all of the stuff that she's been smuggling in on the table. She makes her kids cry. She's drawing a lot of attention. He's like, you're going to screw up everything. And then she finally stops, and she's just like, I'm so tired. I'm scared. I'm alone. And you're still cheating on me? What is this woman to you? I don't ever want to hear her name again. I don't want to hear that you've ever seen her again. He's like, all right, I'm done. Promise. So he does 4 years. And while he's in there, he makes a connection in Pittsburgh, and that's where he's trafficking the drugs. He's able to pay all his bills with drug money. Everything's going semi-okay. And when he gets out, Paulie has a sit down with him, and he's like, listen, because Paulie got out earlier. And Paulie's still not helping the wife. He's not helping anyone. She's like, I had to ask for help, and Paulie's not willing to even see me because he's on parole, and he's trying to keep out of trouble. So he gets out, and he's like, hey, Paulie, what's up? And Paulie's like, okay, so here's what's up. I need you to stop. Shoot, I need to go over here. I'm sorry, guys. I know, I'm so annoying. I probably just went the wrong way. We'll find out soon enough. So Paulie's like, all right, I know that you've been smuggling drugs. You need to stop. It's fine while you're in prison. You had bills to pay. I wasn't able to help you. I acknowledge that. You need to stop now. I don't want to hear about any more of that going on at all. Jimmy wants to keep doing it. So he's doing it on the low now. Paulie gave him a direct order, and he's rebelling against it. By the way, De Niro's character, he was the one that, he is like, okay, I'm going to take this kid, Henry, when he was a kid, I'm going to take him over. He's going to work for me now. He's going to help with all of the chaotic moves, selling cigarettes, doing whatever, holding up trucks, all of that. So they became a kind of a trio over the years of Tommy, Jimmy, and Henry. And Henry's doing good. He's with his wife. He's got a new mistress, but he's only using her mostly for the drugs. He keeps her doped up, bangs her a couple times, and he's making a ton of money, keeping his wife happy. She's fully aware of all of this. You know what? I missed a scene, the red scene. Before the prison, they found out that the construction site they buried Billy Babs at was going to be opened up for development. They needed to go and dig him up and rebury him somewhere else. This is the descent into hell scene. It's one of the best scenes I've ever seen in any movie forever. It's a silhouette with a red backdrop, like backlight, like fog coming in almost, of them all digging and Henry is just vomiting, like violently, like he can't handle it. And Tommy's cackling like a freaking banshee, and he's laughing and he's making jokes, and it's just, they're digging up this decomposing body 6 months after it was buried, and they're having to deal with all of this, and Tommy's just loving it, and Henry's just rejecting all of it but still participating in it. It's the final descent of his character into absolute just being a full-blown criminal, just accepting, you know, this. And like all this time he's been making it out like he even told Karen this when she hassled him about maybe getting out of the life. He was like, the only people that go to prison are the ones that want to go. They do stuff to screw it up. They intentionally screw it up, or they choose to go to prison. I don't want to go, so I'm not going to go. So it's not going to happen to me. I'm better than all. This is the first time that you see things go so wrong for him that he has to do something he really doesn't want to do. And anyway, okay, so sorry about that. Anyway, so we're out of prison, and Tommy is being told that he's going to be made a made man. And this is music to everybody's ears. Like, Jimmy and Henry are vicariously living through his success because they could never be made men, right? So Tommy being a made man is like, if one of us wins, we all win kind of thing. And they're just crying with celebration. They're so freaking happy. They're so excited. Their life is secure now. Their future is secure. Everything's going to be fine. They do a vault job. Jimmy organizes and orchestrates this airport vault getting broken into. They make $6 million in cash and jewelry and all this stuff. It goes over well. Samuel L. Jackson is the truck driver, the guy that drives the stolen truck that they put all of it in or whatever. After it's a success and they know that Tommy's going to be a made man and all of this is going on, everything starts to kind of go to shit. And Henry is getting more and more into coke, because that's the drugs that he's distributing or smuggling or whatever. He's getting more chaotic, more paranoid. Their criminality is getting less organized. And there's this scene where Tommy goes to Samuel L. Jackson's apartment and shoots him in the back of the head. He's like, you know, you're late, man, you're late. It's 11 o'clock, you're supposed to be there at 9. He's like, I'm sorry, man, I'm sorry, I'm getting it. He's like, you're probably going to be late to your own funeral. Bam, shoots him in the head. He had to kill him because the guy forgot to destroy the truck. It's what they've been doing all this time. Every time they steal a truck, they take it to the place that smashes it up, and everything's fine. But he forgot to do that. He got high, and he fell asleep. And so they had to kill him. They had to kill pretty much everybody involved. All this time, there's this other guy, completely inconsequential to the story, but his name's like Moral or something, and he owns a restaurant, and he was helping like everybody. He was helping perpetuate this crime, or he was doing a lot to, you know, get it going. And he's like, where's my cut? You guys, I was supposed to get paid. Where's my cut? And there's this party that they're all going to after everything popped off and they were all successful, that it wasn't Henry, it was Jimmy. Jimmy is cussing everyone out. He's like, this one guy shows up and he's like, I married, look at my new wife, I married her, and look, I bought her a pink Cadillac, look at it, it's beautiful, I love that car. And Jimmy's like, I told you not to spend that money. I told you not to buy anything big. Don't do anything stupid. Don't draw attention to yourselves. Don't be a freaking idiot. You're gonna, you know, and he's like, it's in my mother's name, it's fine. He's like, no, you're bringing the heat on us. And then right after he gets done berating this guy, somebody else comes in and his wife has a brand new like fur coat, and he rips it off the girl, and he's like, get rid of this, get this out of here, go take it back, return it. Everybody stop doing this shit. And while this is going on, the Moral guy is like, where's my money? Everybody's out here with mean coats and cars. I started this whole thing. You're welcome. I could tell on everybody. I could tell on Polly. I could tell on you. I didn't do any of that. It is like, don't make those comments, dude. So they end up killing him, and his wife comes running to Henry's house in a panic. Like, he's never missed a night at home. He's never not come home without calling. Which, of course, is just music to Henry's wife's ears, right? And so they end up making it so that they kill her too, and they put her and Moral in a car together and make it like a suicide note type of thing. I don't know. Anyway. Really sad. Super sad. What else? I've got my little notes. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Okay, so there's this day. Henry has a bad day, and everything comes crashing down. He's supposed to pick up his drugs from this one chick. He's got this other woman that used to babysit his kids that transports it to Pittsburgh and back. And he's got to pick up his brother or something. His brother's out of a hospital or something. He's got to take care of him, and he's cooking the tomato sauce, and he's really explicit about the food that he's making. It's really stupid. All of this is going on in one day, and it's all going wrong. Everybody's got a problem. He's running back and forth, driving to the Goomba's house, getting the drugs, getting the babysitter lady to get ready for her flight. She forgot her hat. She won't fly without her lucky hat. He's got to take her back. All the while, he's like, keep stirring the sauce. You know, it's really stupid. And while this is going on, every time he drives anywhere, there's a helicopter seemingly following him. And he doesn't, and everybody's acting like, they're like, nah, you're paranoid, dude. You're doing too much of the, like, you know? And he's like, no, I'm serious every time I go out. And then he says something like, Paulie thinks I'm crazy, Jimmy thinks I'm crazy. I'll drive over to Jimmy's, bring him the helicopter. Then you'll believe me. And then he puts the drugs in his kitchen cabinet, and he goes out to drive the babysitter to go get her hat, and he gets accosted by the cops. And the cops arrest him, arrest the babysitter. They invade his house. They search his house. His wife dumps the drugs in the toilet in a freaked out panic, tucks a gun in her underwear. She's a real one, for real. And the cops are like, they find his stash. They find his stash house. Everything's gone to hell. He's going to go to prison for a very long time. And while he's waiting for his trial and trying to figure it all out and trying to convince his wife to get him bailed out, because he's like, look, they're afraid I'm going to rat. They're going to kill me. Paulie told me not to do this shit. I got caught doing this shit. It's over for me. You need to bail me out. And his wife's like, I don't have anything. I guess I'll just put up collateral in my mother's house. And she gets him out, and he's at the house, and he has a whole panic over the fact that she just flushed down all of his money. She flushed all the drugs down the toilet, and she's trying to explain to him, like, no, dude, they were gonna find it. They searched everything. And he's just like, you don't know what you did. We have nowhere to go. We have no way to get out. We have no way to escape. Nothing. And she's like, I'm sorry. And then he goes to Paulie, and he's like, Paulie, I need help. I know I messed up. I know. And he's like, you looked in my face. You treated me like an asshole, and you lied to me. And he's like, I know, but I need help. Can you please just help me for old time's sake? And Paulie gives him $3,200, and he's like, now I got to turn my back on you. And Henry takes this as like deliberate disrespect. He's like, after everything that I did, $3,200 is what you're giving me? Like, and when the FBI crashes down on somebody, they seize all your assets. They seize your house. They seize everything, because they assume that it's all related to the money that you've been illegally acquiring. So, okay, let me get gas. Hang on. Okay, so while this is all going on, he starts talking to the feds. Henry starts considering rolling on Paulie and Jimmy. The reason why he felt like he should do this is, one, he felt betrayed by Paulie for not helping him out. And then he went to meet with Jimmy about just, again, trying to get help and try to assess the situation. And Jimmy sets up a meeting that's really peculiar. It's just out of his character, the way that he situates everything. And he shows up to the meeting early because he wants to be there when Jimmy shows up, but Jimmy's already there. He's like, this is strange. He's sitting at, facing the window closest to the exit kind of thing. He's like, what is this guy doing? And then Jimmy starts kind of talking to him about, like, I got a job for you. I need you to go down to Miami or something and handle something, and then I can pay you. And the way that he just phrases everything, it sounds off. He's like, he's working with the feds or something's going on. I don't know. He's going to kill me. And he's like, I know if I go to Miami, I won't make it back. So he agrees, and he, like, plays it off. And then he goes to his wife. He's like, we got to go. So he goes and he's talking to the witness protection option person. And the guy's kind of telling him, this is how this is going to go. You're never going to see your parents again. You're going to have to. And then his wife is like, well, can he just do it? And he's like, listen, you're going to die. They're going to kill you. The first thing they're going to do is trying to find a way to hurt him. And if they can't hurt him, they'll hurt you. So keeping him happy makes him a good witness, and we need a good witness. So it's best for everybody if you go with him with the children, but it's also best for you to do it. And she's like, I don't know, and she's acting like she had nothing to do with any of this. And he's like, you absolutely were a part of this. We heard all your phone conversations. We tapped your phones. We know you know everything. So you're not clear of any of this either. And there's really nothing keeping us from pressing charges against you. So now they're fighting in the kitchen and, trying to figure out what to do. And she's like, I think it's fine. It's totally fine. Everybody's fine. Everybody's friendly. And he's like, no, bitch, they're going to kill us. She's like, oh. So she goes to meet with Jimmy behind Henry's back to try to be like, hey, help us. And also, Henry's scared and we're all scared and we don't know what to do. We don't have any money. We need some money. She goes to meet with Jimmy, and Jimmy's kind of like being real sweet with her, and he gives her $1,000 or something. And he's like, hey, while you're here, you want to get some dresses? Got some dresses for you. And she's like, for my mother, I'll get some dresses for my mom. And he's like, okay, just go down. It's right down here, second door on the left. And they're outside an alleyway. And he sends her down the street, and as she's walking, she starts to get more and more scared because he's standing all the way back there, kind of gesturing to where he wants her to go. And he's like, just keep going. Oh, it's right there. Just keep going. And she's just like, okay. And the closer she gets to it, this feeling of impending doom, and she realizes, like, oh, I absolutely can die. They absolutely can and will kill me. This 100% can still happen. And she gets to the door that she's supposed to go, and she sees this guy's unloading boxes, and she looks back at Jimmy, and she's just like, Jimmy, I'm going to have to do this another time. Another time? Thank you so much. I'll do it. I just realized I have a pap smear I have to get to. I don't know. And she's out, and Jimmy's like hollering at her like, no, it's fine. And she gets home, and she like has a full-blown crying fit, panic attack, sobs in Henry's chest, and is like, she won't tell him that she met with Jimmy because she knows he'll kill her. Not literally, but still. And she was like, I just got scared. I just got so scared. And he's like, okay, well, so we're going to do this. And the next scene is him in the courthouse. And they're like, do you see Paulie, yada, yada, blah. And he is like, please show the court that, he's gestured to Paulie and whatever, my client or whatever. And then it's the same thing with Jimmy. And he points these two out, and the looks on their faces are just like everybody knows what's up now. Like, he's a dead man. They know. They're going to do everything they can to find him. And the next scene is, there we go. There's my gas. There's my $100 of gas. Hang on. Okay. So the next scene is him narrating just what daily life is like. He's like, I never realized how much waiting in line happens to everybody that's not involved in the mafia. It's like, I didn't realize, I'm spending the rest of my life waiting. I'm waiting for groceries. I'm waiting for my car to get picked up. I'm waiting to get into the movie theater. I'm waiting. And he's like, I had everything. I miss the gangster life. I miss the the danger of it. He misses like the politics of it. He misses everything. He misses the mind games and the setups, and he's just so miserable with it. And then it cuts to him just standing with his boxers and bathrobe, picking up his paper outside of his house. And the last line of the movie is like, now I'm stuck here waiting with the other schnooks. And it really, I don't know, it speaks to the ego of it, the whole thing. I mean, Scorsese didn't play with lighting as much in this movie, other than there's a lot of grays and there's a lot of blues. It's shot the way that Law and Order is shot. You know how everything's kind of bleak looking? Everything's kind of like different shades of gray and blue? The last scene is bright. It's a bright suburban modern neighborhood. Everything's green and yellow and happy looking. And he comes out just looking like he just woke up. And it's just, I don't know. It's funny because it's a good ending, you would think, but it's his hell. And the theme of the entire thing is being an important person, and now he's nameless and he's nobody. Now he doesn't have the power to cheat on his wife and keep it from her so easily. He doesn't have the power to get to know famous people and stuff. And then I looked up the aftermath of everything. Their marriage did not last. They made it 25 years married. And then they got a divorce. And he got caught up on a possession charge or something like that, but he never got in any more trouble. He did that after he was in witness protection. Like, just couldn't help himself. Billy Batts was a real guy. He was a real made guy. There's like a lot of people in this story are real historical figures. I haven't gone too deep into the realism of everything. And it's also, you got to think of it like, this is the narration of the rat. This is the narration of the guy that rolled. So, in reality, was Tommy as chaotic and evil as he made him out to be? Was Karen as wild and crazy as he made her out to be? Was he as smooth and slick as he made himself out to be? Like, these are the questions you'll never find an answer to, because it's all from his perspective. And he's got this incredible ego where he doesn't have any. The kids are in the movie like maybe less than 2 minutes of the entire movie, and it's just them walking around, or of them used as props for crying to show Karen as a concerned mother. Like, she went and confronted Janice at her apartment with her children next to her, screaming. Her kids are crying, and she's screaming into the box that you're supposed to push the button, they're supposed to buzz you up. And she starts buzzing all of the neighbors, telling them what a whore Janice is. And she calls Janice's super and flips out. It's just a lot of that. And he kind of makes it out like, look, everybody's crazy and mean to me. And I just did my job. I did a really good job of everything. And I was smooth with everything. And I just tried to keep the devil from the door. But, you know, he makes it out like he had very, very little power and control in the situations, but things that were outside of his control were impossible for anyone to control. So it's not necessarily his failures that caused him to be in the situation he's in. So these 3 movies, Scorsese, I'm gonna give it a break. Honestly, after reading McCarthy, I really just wanted to watch something. I needed to find something as far away from that story as I could. And what's further from the Appalachian narrative in a novel than a movie about New York in the 70s and 80s? So I went down that rabbit trail, and I honestly, you know, I dislike Scorsese as a human being for very, very clear reasons, but I really enjoy his cinema. I mean, I didn't realize he did Last Temptation of Christ. He's an amazing director. He does all his editing. Like, you know, he shot, what was it, The Taxi Driver. He shot that movie in like 20 days. He shot, or no, it was another one called After Hours. He shot that movie in less than a month and then immediately just started editing. And the way that he edits his scenes, like when you read the screenplays, they're not scene by scene the same. There's things that are not related to each other that become related to each other the way that he cut and edited them. And there's camera work that's so clearly like thought out. Like in Taxi, like the way the camera, like I said, is angling downwards at him at all times. And when he's talking to people, it's angled kind of upward at them. Like your eye level or looking up at them. And when he kills those people, the camera is overhead looking down at the crime scene and panning out to the street. And there's only 2 other scenes where it's shot overhead. It's when he gets the job as a cab driver and it's the keys and the paperwork being put down for him. And then there's another overhead scene. I can't remember what it was, but it's another one of those, like, is this the perspective of God? Is this the perspective of the spirit of him or the soul of him, or what is this? It's like when chaos moves. And then in the Mean Streets, like I said, like the running up chaotic wiggle of the camera during the fight scenes, which apparently when they did a fight scene, they had to shoot it in like weeks because they had such a low budget, they couldn't get the lighting right. They had to keep on rearranging the room around the fighting sequences. And the camera work being shaky like that wasn't a plan. It just happened that way because they didn't have the budget to create the smooth transitional camera work that other scenes endow. So, but it works so well. And there's a lot of that where they're following him through the streets of New York, and you can see the jiggles of the camera where it's kind of like you're walking with them. Sort of like you've seen movies where somebody's out in the woods and it's kind of like you're watching you get the perspective that something or someone is watching the person through the woods by the angle of the camera moving and zooming in and out and whatever. It's kind of like that through the streets. It really feels very different. Each movie feels very different. Taxi Driver feels very much like you are an unwilling passenger in the cab. Like it's almost always shot from behind him in the taxi cab. And then in Mean Streets, it's shot like they got the full face shot of him at the party, but it's really shot like you're just standing next to him. You're involved in everything. You're along for the ride with them, and you're a participant in everything. And then Goodfellas, it's more of like a cinematic camera work shot where when they want to increase the chaos of like the party or whatever, that's when they'll have the camera zooming around the room. But for the most part, it's very stable, very sensible, very calm, very organized. And it kind of speaks for the characters themselves. Like the cab driver's in his own head, so you're in his own head. You're right in his space. You're really close to him. And Mean Streets is just it's like Clockwork Orange, chaotic. And then Goodfellas, it's somebody took the time to write this and sit down and think it all through and how he wants the narrative to go. So the camera work kind of follows around, organized. I don't know. I really enjoyed it. The soundtracks are amazing. I've been talking a lot. It's been 2 hours. Okay. That was a fun day. I don't think I'm ever going to do this again, but all right. I'm tired. Bye.